Eli Pariser, the author of The Filter Bubble. Eli, you've laid out a number of problems with the current internet economy. So now you've got your chance, you're talking to millions of people on TechCrunch. What's the solution? What are the concrete things that internet users need to do to solve the problem of the filter bubble?
Well, I think there's three things. So I think the first is we do actually need to revamp the laws regulating the use of private information. These are laws that are 40 years old. They just don't contemplate a world in which one click somewhere can be sold to the highest bidder to affect what happens on a website somewhere else entirely without your knowledge or consent. That just wasn't part of the picture when they were written. And so we need to make sure that people do retain some control over knowing when and how their personal information is being used and for what purposes.
Are you talking about the do not track legislation or other kinds of legislation?
I think it's something in that vein, but I think do not track is too simplistic because I think a binary choice is probably not what we want. We want actually good tools to be able to make good decisions.
Is there any particular legislation now that's being discussed that you think can solve this problem, or do we need entirely new legislation?
I haven't seen anything in the works that I think totally gets at this particular piece of it. But I think what it would be about is really asserting that people do have some control over this stuff, and that companies that take away their control or share their data without their permission really have some consequences for doing so. You do want people to have some sense of freedom about that. On the institutional side, I think these companies need to be much more transparent about what they're doing.
You mean Facebook and Google?
Facebook and Google, and educate people. Use this as an opportunity to show people, how they're sifting through this information. Educate them about which things are targeted and which things are not, which things are personalized and which things are not.
Yeah, but realistically, you can say that. But we all know that Facebook and Google are two of the least transparent companies in the world. That their success and their viability lies in secrecy and hiding what they're doing.
Well, I don't even think. I think that is a bit of a canard because I think neither of them at this point rely on the genius of the algorithm itself. Bing, has just as good a search algorithm as Google does. What it doesn't have is 10 years of data and a massive amount of scale and a lot of other applications that are pushing people into that.
So are you saying then that...
So I'm saying they actually could be...
So Google and
It would be reasonable to suggest that they'd be much more transparent than they have been, and we shouldn't let them off the hook just because they say, that it's a competitive advantage.
So are you saying here that Google and Facebook can actually learn from Microsoft? Finally, we have something to learn from Microsoft, right?
What would they be learning? They would be...
Well, that you're saying that Microsoft is actually more transparent.
Oh, I'm not saying that Bing is much more transparent about the algorithm. I'm just saying that the value of the algorithm isn't what makes Facebook great. In a funny way, a few people would argue that the news feed on Facebook is a terrific experience. It's not. It's very hit or miss. And so explaining a little bit more about what they're doing actually could get more people working on the problem of how to make it better. I was just talking to someone at Reddit who said that one of the best pieces of how Reddit worked came from someone in the community who said, your comments are all messed up. Here's the little piece of code that you should use instead. And they plugged it in. It worked great. The comments are much better. Sometimes when you open up, actually people can help improve your product.
And the third solution?
Well, it's on the individual side. I think there are still things that we can each do to make sure that we're exposed to diverse sources of information. I think Twitter, as compared to Facebook, is a better way of managing information flows that way. I don't hear from my conservative friends on Facebook because Facebook thinks I'm not interested in them.
You have conservative friends.
I have conservative friends. And I do hear from them on Twitter because Twitter is very simple. When you subscribe to someone's feed, you see what they are subscribing to. Maybe that won't be the case given the news yesterday that Twitter's starting to move in this kind of recommendation and personalized feed direction. But at least for the time being, you can use tools that help you manage these things in a better way.
And if there's one thing that an individual can do, single thing, read a newspaper?
Well, yeah, go out of your way to find something that challenges what you think, because this is. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to change your mind about everything, but it reminds you that there's a lot that you don't know, and that actually is a very important thing to remember.
And final question, Eli, what have you changed your mind about that you've come across that you wouldn't have if you'd have been only relying on the internet as a filter bubble?
Well, it's not even necessarily.
But a particular example,
It's a lot of it is whole topics that I just wouldn't know anything about. I mean, I'm not sure that I would know much about Pakistan if it wasn't highly promoted by newspapers who think that they're doing their civic duty to show me stories about Pakistan. I'm not sure that I would have sought that out. It's not something that is relevant in my life in Brooklyn, necessarily in a very narrow way, but it is relevant as a citizen of the country. So a lot of the time, it's not necessarily that you're going to come away with some dramatically different view, is that you see different parts of the human experience, you see different parts of the world, you're aware of different perspectives, and you're a little more skeptical about what you believe yourself. You recognize that, maybe I might be wrong.
So perhaps we should just force all Americans to listen to the BBC World Service. How about that?
I don't think that's I'm not sure that that'll get us all the way.